is deemed to have been made, moved, and seconded at this time. Therefore, the question is the following, that this House do now adjourn.
The honourable member for Random Buren St. George's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the face of Peter Penashue's acceptance and expenditure of almost $50,000 in illegal donations, the Conservative government is attempting to cover up the true nature of his track record as Member of Parliament for Labrador. As I speak, Mr. Penashue is campaigning in Labrador to regain the seat he disgraced. Meanwhile, Elections Canada continues its investigation of Mr. Penashue's unlawful election campaign, which could result in Mr. Penashue being banned from running for the next 5 years. Let me address some of the incorrect statements made by the Conservative government as they try to hide the fact that Mr. Penashue had to cheat to get elected. First, the Conservative government falsely claims that Peter Penashue was essential to the establishment of thousands of jobs and the Muskrat Falls project in Labrador. The truth of the matter, Mr. Speaker, is that federal funding for the Muskrat Falls project was promised in the 2011 by the Liberals and the Conservatives before Peter Penashue was even elected. Second, the Conservatives have falsely credited Peter Penashue with the paving of the Trans-Labrador Highway, a project which was primarily funded by the previous Liberal government. Between 1995 and 2005 alone, the Liberal government contributed almost $340 million to the Trans-Labrador Highway, with an additional $17 million being invested by the province. The fact is that during Peter Penashue's tenure as MP for Labrador, the Conservative government provided only $42.5 million in federal funding for Trans-Labrador Highway. This is almost a 90% decrease in funding from the contribution levels established by the previous Liberal government. Third, the Conservative government wrongly insists that Peter Penashue is responsible for increasing search and rescue capabilities in Labrador. Again, nothing could be further from the truth. Peter Penashue is responsible, however, for failing to stand up for search and rescue services in Newfoundland and Labrador, even after the tragic death of young 14-year-old Burton Winters. The Conservatives incorrectly claim a new Griffin helicopter was added to the search and rescue facility in Goose Bay under Mr. Penashue's leadership, increasing their fleet from 2 to 3 helicopters. However, this contradicts reality. Under the previous Liberal government, Goose Bay was equipped with 3 Griffin helicopters. The Conservative government reassigned one of these helicopters to the Canadian assistance in Jamaica under the condition that once missions were completed, that it would return to Goose Bay. Now that this helicopter has been returned to its rightful place in Goose Bay, the Conservative government's continued claim to have added a new helicopter to the Goose Bay fleet is a blatant mistruth intended to give the illusion that they responded to the tragic death of Burton Winters. Again, the advice of experts, Peter Penashue failed to oppose the closure of the Vital Marine Rescue Subcentre in St. John's. Since the closure of this facility by the Conservative government, emergency calls have been diverted to Italy. Information has been misconstrued and lives have been necessarily put at risk. Even as the Liberal Party warned of the imminent dangers associated with this closure, Peter Penashue and the Conservative government failed to reverse their irresponsible decision. While we continually ask the Conservative government to acknowledge their mistakes and their inadequate delivery of search and rescue in Newfoundland and Labrador, Peter Penashue failed to represent his constituents regarding search and rescue even once in the House of Commons. In fact, even as a Conservative minister used a vital piece of search and rescue helicopter as a limousine, Peter Penashue remained silent. So I ask again, Mr. Speaker, given Mr. Penashue's cheating record, how do we know he will not attempt to do the same thing in this by-election?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think the quality, the poor quality, of the words chosen by the member for Random Buren St. George's in that screed that she just delivered on the floor of the House of Commons at a very uncommon time for partisan attacks at this stage of our day really speaks to the quality of representation Newfoundland has had in this House by confining itself to representation from the opposition. And it also speaks, Mr. Speaker, to the reasons why the people of Labrador elected Peter Penashue in the first place He brought a strong voice to this place, to the government of Canada, not only for Labrador, but for all of Newfoundland and Labrador, who are sadly underrepresented, misrepresented by members like that for Random Buren St. George's, whose question, if there was a question, was riddled with untruths, riddled with misunderstanding, riddled with distortion of the record of Peter Penashue, which stands for itself, which is on full display to the people of Labrador as I speak, and which will ensure that they have the opportunity to put a strong member of Parliament back into this place in very short order. In 2 years, Peter Penashue delivered more for that great land of Labrador and for the province through his work in Labrador than Liberals had managed for, and his opponent had managed, for 20 years. Mr. Speaker, we really don't need to spend too much time highlighting those results. They've been aired here in prime time, as it were, in question period, in debate over and over again. They are known nationally, not just in Labrador. Peter Penashue secured federal support for the development of Muskrat Falls. It was not done under the Liberal Party, Mr. Speaker. It was left in abeyance. It was mishandled. It was fumbled. And now the member for Random Buren St. George's is reduced to heckling to try and prevent the truth from coming out. It was done under this government. It's moving forward, a loan guarantee, a partnership that is unprecedented for Labrador, will bring more jobs to that great part of our country than any project heretofore. He worked to increase internet speed in Labrador, Mr. Speaker. Now, this is something that those in urban ridings, maybe those in other parts of Newfoundland, may take for granted. But in Labrador, it's a top priority. It's a question of work. It's a question of communication. It's a question of basic quality of life. Peter Penashue brought a faster internet to the people of Labrador. And he has delivered federal funding to pave the Trans-Labrador Highway. Of course, that highway was begun in earlier phases, but we've never seen this era of improvement on a grand scale until Peter Penashue became the elected representative for Labrador. He worked, obviously, to scrap the long gun registry. It's something we never hear from the opposition, obviously, because were their hand on the tiller, were they anywhere close to representing Labrador or governing this country again, that long gun registry would be right back in place, with its immediate penalty to the traditional way of life of the people of Labrador, not to mention the seal hunt, the polar bear hunt, for which Peter Penashue not only stood up in this House time and time again, but advocated across this country and around the world. And we have results, Mr. Speaker, on all of those fronts. The opposition can only point to the absolute opposite on all of those fronts. They oppose the seal hunt. They want a long gun registry. They would side with actually the enemies of the polar bear hunt around the world outside of Canada. And for that reason, Peter Penashue is the legitimate representative of the people of Labrador. We look forward to seeing him back here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Random Buren St. George's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I mean, the facts speak for themselves. And having listened to my honourable colleague, he's clearly not apprised of the facts. We are in Newfoundland and Labrador. Labradorians know. They know they deserve better. They need that strong voice. Where was that strong voice? The member speaks about all of the times Mr. Penashue spoke in support of initiatives. We certainly didn't hear it in the House of Commons. Labradorians were looking to hear from their member of Parliament. And just let me point out, because there's one thing that really does gall me, and that's a suggestion by the Conservatives that the Liberal Party does not support the seal hunt. How, again, and on truth, how you can stand there and say such a thing when you know it's blatantly untrue. But let me tell you what has happened since the Conservatives had Mr. Penashue there. In fact, under the Conservatives, the EU imposed a ban on the importation of seal products. And since Mr. Penashue became an MP, Russia, Belarus,